Thanks for joining me today as I show you how I created my layout in Cricut Craft Room. One thing I want to quickly just show you, I'm not going to go into too much detail on this right now, and if you want, I'll do a video on this. Just leave me a comment below and I can go into a little more depth on this. But I am using matte layers in my Cricut Craft Room. As you can see here on our left hand side, I have first layer and new layer, and I have eyes here that I can turn them on and off. If you're familiar with the Gypsy, you'll be familiar with how these are going to work for you in the craft room. It's the same kind of concept. My new layer, if I turn that off, is just my black background. And the reason that I am using the black background on a separate layer is because if I try to come in here and say my black layer was on the same level as everything else, as soon as I tried to select anything, it's going to try to select this back layer. So what I do, let me get this back into place here. To avoid that is I can go in here and turn off this new layer, and that will not interfere with me trying to select anything that's on my screen. Otherwise, that in the background will just be hard for me to work around. So with that being said, I'll just go over a few of the details that I used here. For my black layer back here, I used the square from Designer's Calendar, I believe it's called. I just pulled that up and then I just flood filled it with black. And let me select it here. Okay, and as I select this, if you notice over here, my new layer, which I can come in and rename. I'm just going to rename that really quick. Black back, so I know what that is. So if I turn that on and off, that's the black background. If I select this piece, if you notice up here my height and width, I have it bigger than 12 by 12, and that's just going to give me the ability to full bleed on the piece of paper that I put up there or put on my mat. It'll make sure it goes edge to edge if you go a little bit above your width and height. Mine actually, when I first did it, it didn't come out all the way to the bottom of my page, so I probably need to make it a little bit bigger than what I have it there, but that's what I do to get a full bleed when I'm printing out of the craft room. Okay, so I'm going to turn that off so we can see what's going on here. So for my letters, I used Happy Hauntings, and this is the bloody font, I believe it's called, and that one also has a shadow. And what I wanted to do is I wanted to have that thin line of color around all of my lettering. Let me turn this back on so you can see that real quick. So in actuality, if you want to look at these, what it is, back in here, is there was two layers to my letter. There is the orange, which is the bottom piece, and I'll show you that, which would be your shadow, and the black that is the top layer. And I just place these on top of each other, and it's hard to see unless you kind of zoom in here so I can see this a little bit better and line it up better. And for our project this week, we were supposed to use the colors orange, purple, green, and black in our project. And I pretty much used exclusively those colors, except for a few that I'll show you in just a second. So that's all I did for that. And when you put that on the black background, it's just going to give you that little color around the outside like you see there. Also in Designer's Calendar, I pulled out just some lettering for the We Will Go, because my title of mine is A Haunting We Will Go. Okay. So for my little guys down here, these are all from Mini Monsters, and I thought they would just be really cute and whimsical to put on the page at the bottom. So I selected a few of the different ones that I liked, and at first I just kind of put them in there in a block color, just a solid color, just to see if I liked the size and the shape. And I don't know if it's just me or if this is the way Craft Room is working, but if I tried to go in here and select all these layers and then try to size them correctly, for some reason they all want to size to real size, even though I have up here at the top this relative selected. It's supposed to make everything proportionate to each other, so when you layer them, they're good. But I found what the easiest way to do this is I go into options. Once I decide how I want the size to be, and I'll go under Craft Room, and I'll change my dial size to the size that I want that to be. So for example, this guy was at 2.458. I guess it was a 2.5, but for some reason I must have resized it. So I would go up here and say, make my dial size 2.5, and then put all the layers up on the screen and go ahead and go from there. Do my coloring and then layer them all together. And then I like to group everything, and that way it's easier to move my items around. So I'm just going to show you really quickly. I'm going to go in here to Cricut Cartridges. Hopefully I can pick one out that's kind of easy to do, and I can show you if I can find my cartridge. It is alphabetical, Chris, so shouldn't be that hard, right? Any monsters. Okay, so now to get my guys down here and show you how I put these together, it's good to have your handbook handy, but if you don't, you can kind of sort of figure out what you need to do here. For this example, I'm just going to use this piece of candy, since it's only 2 layers, and you'll kind of get the idea of what we need to do. So I'm going to come pull this piece of candy up here on the screen, and I'm going to say just add it to my current layer, which would be where I have all my pieces here. And I'm going to say shift lock, nope, layer 1. This is what happens when I don't have my handbook with me. Okay, so we're going to take that and we're going to put the swirl up as well. Say current layer. Okay, now the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here, and sometimes when you color in a layer, let me see if it'll do it when I color this in. Okay, you see how it left all these like pieces here? These are I guess placement guides when you go to do, when you first cut it out, you know how like it puts those little lines in there so you know where to line everything up. Since I don't really need them, I'm going to go into hide contour, and I'm going to hide all these little pieces so I don't have them, and I just want the solid background. So I'm going to come up here and say exit after I click on them and highlight them, and then I'm going to take this piece here and I'm going to put this on top of my other, and I'm going to say don't weld. And you notice it changes it to the color of the background, which is okay, it's not a problem. But while it's selected, before I click off of it, I'm going to come over here and pick another color. So as you can see, now I have my 2 pieces together. And to keep them together, so I can shape them or do whatever I want with them, I'm going to just draw a box around like this, and it'll highlight everything. Which is the easiest to do, especially if you have multiple pieces. And then I'm just going to come up to the top toolbar up here and select group, and that'll automatically group those 2 pieces together. So if you come in and you grab it and you want to move it all over the place or whatever you want to do, you can just do that and not have all the layers kind of going everywhere. And if you decide, well, I don't really like those 2 colors together, you can go in and do edit group. You can select your purple. Say we want to change that to a black. Let's select it again. Go and say black. And it'll change it to black. Or if we want that, an orange or a blue. And you can change it to whatever you want to match whatever you're doing. Okay? And then once you're done, again, you go up here and you say exit. And it's all together still. Okay, And then what you can do is, if you want, you can stick it over here on your mat. If you don't like that, the shape there or the size that you have it at, you can always make it smaller, you can make it larger. And once it's layered and grouped, it's very easy to do that. So we'll go ahead and just delete that off of there. So I did that for every single one of these images down here. And one thing you're going to have to keep in mind, and let me show you with one of the ones that we did here. I'm not going to pull the whole thing up here. Let me get, which one do I want to use? I think the cat. The cat, where is my cat? I will use the cat if I can find the cat. Okay. We'll use the pumpkin because the pumpkin's the same way. So we're going to say, okay, we're going to go ahead and add this to the current layer. Let's go pull him over here. Now, one of his layers for his face, it's not that one. It's this one here. Okay, we're going to pull this one over as well. And you'll see all of his, these are his teeth right here. They're not going to exactly line up over here when you go to put them on here. So some things line up and some things don't. So in this case, what I ended up doing was making 5 copies of this. So I just go in here and I would say, right click it, say copy, and then I would say paste, paste 5 times. And then what I would do is go in, hide my contour, and then I would go and select the ones I wanted to hide. So I'd have this eyeball, and then this one I will go in and I would say, let's all hide all of these pieces. So then I have the other eyeball, and then I would go in and I say, okay, hide these and leave one tooth, and so on and so forth. So I had each individual piece, and then I would go ahead and place them where they needed to be on my image. So that's how I had to get around some of these to do the layering. So I know this is kind of a quick and dirty way to do this, or to show you how to do all your layering down here. And basically, as you can see, I use my green, my purple, orange, and black. Since I had black as my background, I used the white just as a neutral to pop these off the page there a little bit. And of course, like my cat, I had to use pink and gray and use a little bit of blue. So I kind of went a little bit off the color scheme, but some of them had to have, you know, I can't have a cat with purple tongue. Well, I guess you could at Halloween, but that would just be weird. So what I wanted to do too is, if you know where you're going to place your pictures and what you're going to do, you could put your mats right here up on the screen or on your layout, and then print everything out together and print all nice and flat. Now, if we had that ability to put our pictures in here, I could actually have just gone ahead and created my entire layout and printed the whole thing off on my Imagine, photos and everything. And it's almost like doing digital scrapbooking. So, and just using the patterns and such on my cartridges. So that's how I created this, and I know I went really quickly through this whole thing, but if there's anything that you want to see or you want me to go over again or do a separate video on, I will do that. Just leave me a comment and let me know, and I'll be happy to do that for you. Thanks for watching. See you next week. Bye.